We are so delighted to have Captain Rick Ryals join us today and teach us about kingfishing. For those of you who don't know who Rick is, which is probably nobody, but for those of you who might not know who he is the host of every Saturday morning on 690. He does a Florida Sportsman Radio show on, it's on 690 from 7 to 9.
Right.
And is it called, is the show have a name?
Florida Sportsman Radio.
Florida Sportsman Radio. And he's also the co-host, and this is where I first saw Rick on YouTube's, I think, he's the co-host of Florida Sportsman Best Boat TV, where he gets on boats and he tests them. He does a phenomenal job with that. He's the one that writes the Northeast section of Florida Sportsman magazine every month. And so Rick does that. Thank you, Rick, for doing that. We all read it like the Bible. And another thing he does is Florida Sportsman Action Spotter podcast. So he runs a podcast, and so you can, is it your radio show or is it a separate show?
It's a separate podcast that involves the whole state.
He does a great podcast. It goes around the whole state. I think it's 11 regions.
That's exactly right.
He gets people from each region on the phone, and they tell him what's going on. It's just fantastic. So today he's going to tell us about how to catch kingfish, and he's an absolute expert, and just in time for our tournament this week. And so, Rick, thank you so much for coming.
Hey, my pleasure. Hey, I am tickled to be here tonight. I don't do as much kingfishing as I used to. I keep up with it a lot. I found out that tournaments make me yell at people I care about, and they make me lie to people I care about. And neither one. Rick, you've been on any? Oh, I haven't been on any fish. Don't look in that box. So I just kind of got away from the competitiveness of that, but. I've been so blessed and so fortunate to spend my whole life on the ocean out of Northeast Florida. If I had to do over again, I wouldn't change a thing. But, I might have married my wife 10 years sooner, but other than that, I probably wouldn't have changed a thing. I want to start out talking about something that's got absolutely nothing to do with kingfish. You guys ever consider the fact that if you gave me Bear Croft and Kenny Crawford to pick as the winners of this year's Nassau tournament, I could give you the rest of the field and I might stand a chance of winning. All right, and guess what? Bear Croft and Kenny Crawford have no secret weapons. They have nothing that you don't have. They just do things at a different level. Okay? Now I think that I'm pretty hard charging, and when we're fishing down in Stewart on the sailfish tournaments we do down there, I work my guys hard and all this. And my friend Scott, and his last name won't come to me right now, who came in second in the Quest for the Crest down in Miami this year, which is a big money tournament. Scott came in second, and I said, that had to be a lot of fun because they had 21 sails in 2 days. He said, first day wasn't very much fun. I said, why? He said, well, I called all the crew at 10 o'clock the night before and told them to meet me at the boat. We had 20-pound tests on all the reels, and I felt how hard the wind was blowing, and I said, let's strip them all off and go 16. Scott Fawcett, that's the name I'm looking for, because 16 doesn't put up as much wind resistance as 20 does, and the baits will look more natural. That's a different level. You understand what I'm saying? That's nothing you don't have, nothing you don't know. It's just the amount that you put in. I decided one day, because Scott Fawcett is such a better fisherman than I am, that I was going to pay his $3,000 charter fee, and I was going to take my crew, and we were going to go with him. And I learned about 30 minutes into the day that I'm never going to be Scott Fawcett, because I'm never going to work that hard. He fishes 10 baits, fishes 6 off of 2 different kites, and pulls 4 lines behind you. So, and I know that our guys around here, Bear Croft and
Kenny.
Thank you, Kenny Crawford, don't do that. It's just how much work you put in, how intricate you get is going to determine how you do. And the challenge is to be as intricate and paying as close attention at 3:30 as you were at 7:30 in the morning. That's what's hard. So many boats put the bass out at 7:30, nothing's happened by 9. Cap, turn the stereo up. Pretty soon the beer comes out. That's not the guys that are serious about winning. So let's talk a little bit about stuff that will help you. Does everybody in here know how to make a 30-second kingfish rig? Raise your hand if you don't. That's a lot.
How about a 30-minute?
Yeah, I'm 72 now. It's become a 45-second kingfish rig. No, we originally named it that because I made 5 of them at a stoplight one time when somebody called me that their boat had broken down and they couldn't take their charter. Can y'all hear me if I put this down? No? Okay, I'll keep it up then. See how ambidextrous I am.
I can hold it for you if you want.
No, that's okay, but thanks. Listen, we're going to start out with a basic pogie rig because that's what most of us are going to be fishing. It doesn't just work on pogies, but it just works on certain size baits. Yes, sir? Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Talking about different levels. Roger Walker, my co-host on Saturday morning, will have 100 rigs at least before he leaves the dock because he will have to have at least 30 for every size pogie that he might be using that day. You understand what I'm saying? Instead of saying, yeah, that hook's okay. No. That hook's an inch too far forward. Get me a bigger rig. All right? Making them is super easy. This is a product called Surf Strand. It is a cable. It is not a single strand wire. It does not kink. Okay? It's very flexible. Now, why is that important? Because when a kingfish comes at your bait, I am convinced that kingfish start out in schools of thousands that are this long. And then sharks get some and fishermen get some, and there's a few hundred that are this long. And then sharks and fishermen get a few more, and there's 4 or 5 that are this long. Well, they didn't get to be that long by being stupid. The stupid ones bit a diving rapala when they were this long and their lives ended, okay? You with me? So we want to fool the one this weekend that's going to win you money. We're going to work with a flexible 30-pound cable. They make this thing, excuse me, I think it's 40.
Is that 7 strand?
No, it's AFW Surf Strand.
Okay.
7 strand makes a very similar product. What you have to stay away from, don't get the cable that's coated. They make this in 29-pound tests, 40-pound tests, and 60-pound tests. My best success has been with the 40. I've broken off the 29 too many times, and the 60 is just too hard to tie, and it's too bulky in the water. Listen, I don't care if we're talking about fishing for brim and Hannah Park, or if we're fishing for blue marlin. Always put the least amount of tackle in the water you can get by with. Does that make sense? Okay. You don't want a great big snap swivel. You don't want 80-pound leader. All right? That's why you have a drag on your reel. Okay? We're going to start it out, this pogie rig, by showing you backwards how we make it going forwards. This will end up being the trailer hook. Okay? We're going to put your glasses on there. Got advice for y'all. Don't turn 72.
Most of us are
Right.
right.
Man, I'll tell you what. Okay, a treble hook has 2 sides to it. It's got a flat side, and it's got a side with the extra hook welded to it. All right, I want you to hold your little treble hook with the flat side up. Bring the leader through the eye and lay it on the flat side. Okay? Once you do that, take 5 wraps down the shank of the hook. Hold the wraps with your finger. Don't let them get loose. Hold them with your finger. Run the long end of the leader back through the eye, and that's it. Okay? That's your trailer hook. You're going to want to straighten it. There we go. That's a little better. Now for lead hooks, it depends on what bait I've got. The most common one I use is a 1/0 owner. All right? Now, keep in mind, guys, we started out fishing when I was a kid with these hooks in the belly here, right? Remember that? All right? Our goal was to get the hook in the fish. Now everything has gone 180 degrees. Your goal is now, don't pull the hook out. If he bites down on this little treble, he's on, okay? It's your job to lead him to the boat and lead him to the gaff without pulling the hook out. So instead of wanting as much drag as you can get on it, you want as little as you can get on it now, because you don't want to pull those hooks out. Hello, Terry. How are you, bud? I better be careful now. Don't want to screw up now. I use a single lead hook, okay? Now, my next thought is, what's my bait going to be the next day? If it's big mullet, I may make the hooks this far apart. If it's going to be regular pogies, that's a little big. Regular pogies probably be about this size. But I'll have another 20 rig that the hooks are this far apart, and another 20 rig where they're this far apart. It's 1,000 little bitty things that make you a better fisherman. All right, slide your hook into place, exact same process. 5 wraps down the shank of the hook, up through the eye, voila, okay? A pogie rig. After you've done that a little bit, you can do that in 30 seconds. Unfortunately, we have to have a swivel, okay? Let me show you how hard it is to attach your swivel. The smallest tackle you can get by with. And believe you me, it's a challenge for me to thread that swivel right every time. But I don't want a swivel big enough to cause a bubble in the water, okay? If it does that, it makes it, it's unnatural, it's no good. All right, we're gonna run the swivel, leader through the swivel, run the cable through, bring the tag end in front of the main line, come around the back, and go back through the loop that you created. Now it'll be easy to tell if you did it right, because if you did it right, you'll be able to, it'll look just like a figure 8 as you tighten it up, okay? If it doesn't look like an 8, it's not right.
Is there a name for that knot?
The figure 8 knot, how about that? Okay, well that can't be enough that little wrap can't be enough to hold a 50-pound fish. Go ahead and pull that out, pull the swivel off for me. Go ahead. Go ahead. The point being, it will not slip. It will not come out. Okay? Trust me on this. All right, I just have my pliers full. Okay, don't worry. Just cut your tag end off and fine. Voila, for a live pogie rig. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Now, are we ready to tie this to the end of our line and go fishing? No, we're not. Okay? We want a short leader. The longer we make our leader, the more weight it is on our bait, the tougher it is for him to carry around, and the less natural he looks. So we want enough leader to where it doesn't get past his teeth and he can't bite the mono off. But we want it short enough to where he can still carry it around and look natural. And here's how we do that. What's that silly cork doing? Maybe something to that. Hold on. This, because this is a rig that's going sailfish fishing with me next week, is 30-pound fluoro. For the tournament, I would recommend not going over 20-pound fluoro. I would probably use 20-pound fluorocarbon, and I'd use about 10, 12 feet of it at least. Okay? Does everybody know how to connect two pieces of mono like that in a blood knot? I see a lot of yeses. You know how to do that? Okay. Guess what? I'm going to show you in as soon as I find my cookies.
Underneath the box.
Ha ha! Thank you. All right. Everybody's tied a blood knot, but a good friend of mine taught me an easier way to do it. Take your two lines you're going to join. This is 20, and for you guys, this will be 20. But this will be fluorocarbon, this will be monofilament. Okay? Take your two lines, and you just tie them together like that. There you go. Go win a few $100,000. No, that's not the end of the knot. Okay, you're going to join your two lines like that, and you're going to form a loop opposite of the knot you just tied. And you're going to take that loop, and you're going to make 4 twists in it. You with me? Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody need me to stop? Say so. Then you bring the knot that you tied through the loop, pull it up, start it down, but before you tighten it down, make sure you moisten it good. And then pull it tight. Okay? That is a very quick and easy way for you to join your two lines together. It is very, very tough and hard to break. So, now we're taking monofilament down to, wait a minute, that stupid cork's still on. All right, let's talk about this cork a second. I learned this down in Stewart, once again, my friend Scott Fawcett. He's got these on every one of his lines. Well, he kite fishes a whole lot, and I don't. So I said, do you keep those on all your lines so they're ready to go up in the kite if you need one to go up in the kite? He said, well, sort of. I said, what are you talking about? He said, we fish a little different. What he does is, this cork will slide, because we have a bead up here. It will slide to that knot and stop. So you've got about 15 feet, 12, 15 feet between the cork and the bait. Okay? Scott doesn't troll. I don't troll anymore. If you're trolling when you're kingfishing, chances are you're moving too fast. Keep in mind, if that little pogey's struggling to keep up with your boat, that doesn't look natural. A kingfish is used to coming up to a bait and having it take evasive action to get out of the way. So what I've done is, I've got twin Yamahas on my boat. I shut them both off, and I drop my trolling motor, and I'll go about 100 yards with these pogies on these cork rigs, 2 on the long outriggers, 2 short. If you don't have outriggers, just use the Kingfish side holders. The only reason for the corks is to keep your baits separated. All right, keeps them from tangling up and making a mess. Now, instead of my pogies being pulled straight through the water, now they're free swimming. Does that make sense? Okay, let me tell you something. You see a big swirl behind a bait, and that bait jumps out of the water 2 times, you don't have to wonder whether you're going to get a bite or not. All right, it's coming as soon as he can catch it. So for me, we've actually gone to using these all the time. Okay? And that's personal preference. If you want to troll, knock yourself out. Who's got questions about pogie fish? I'm doing one lousy job.
All right, one thing. Lately, when we've been finding pogies, they've been really small.
Right.
So You got us advice to
Yeah,
how to
don't-
find the bigger ones?
Don't hesitate to put one on each hook if they're that small.
So put 2 on.
Yeah, but just make sure you keep a very close eye on it, because when one of them starts to give up the ghost, your rig's useless.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the consistently biggest pogies I've ever caught are at the north end of Nassau Sound, right where it pours out there to the north. They seem to be bigger than any other kind. We were fishing in the chum hole one day and I had a well full of pogies, and I caught them down the beach to the south of Mayport a little bit, and they were like you're talking about. They were pretty small. Well, everybody that went north to get their pogies was out fishing my brains out. So I dumped out my live well, ran up to Nassau, came back. The rest of the day we kept up with everybody else. The size pogies made that much difference. Okay? Don't hesitate to use a mullet. All right, there's a lot of mullet in the river right now, and mullet is a very natural bait for a big kingfish, I promise you. Usually, the little ones won't mess with them that much. All right? Now, I'm disappointed y'all didn't have more questions about pogies, and here's why I say that. First off, if you find pogies, don't fish the whole day with the same pogies. If you know where they are, refresh it's almost always going to be slow from 11 to 1:30 or 2 in that gap in there. Take the time to dump out your old pogies, go back to the school. Chances are they haven't moved much. Catch another well full and fish the afternoon with fresh bait. Okay? Makes a big, big difference. All right? Secondly, on pogies, they work just as well on the downrigger as they do up top. Everybody seems like they've got to put something on them, either a little skirt or something. All that does is impede their breathing. They die faster if you put something on their head. They don't get enough water flow coming through them. And I've snorkeled and dove over most of the southeast. I've never seen a pogie swimming around with an orange skirt on his head. So I think they find them without the skirts every day. Okay, they wouldn't be here. All right, yes sir.
If you've got a double pogie rig, you still run a trail hook?
I'm sorry now?
If you have a double pogie rig,
Right.
fishing 2 small pogies, you run a trail?
I don't on the front. I will on the back.
Okay.
Okay? If I'm making double pogie rigs on purpose, which I will do, I have a single hook, then I'll drop down 8 inches and have a regular, you can put, we're going to do a ribbon fish rig here in a minute, you can put as many hooks on a leader as you want to. I want as few as I have to catch fish, but I don't want to have one with no hook in it. Okay? Now that's, I say that, one of the funniest things I've ever done, if you guys think that you're real stealthy, someday take a little tiny single hook, put it through the nose of a pogie, and put him out on about 15-pound test monofilament and see how long it lasts. All right, they'll blast him in a heartbeat. That tells you the fish are there, and you're just not doing a good enough job to fool them. Does that make sense? All right, now, wait. When all this trolling for kingfish started, Terry Lacoste was winning all our money. I know he was one of the first. To ever fish for kingfish using these things. If you'd have ever told me, now this year my understanding is they come in 2-packs. The 2-packs are $20 and you can buy them in any quantity you want to. Last year, when Strike Zone was the only place that had them, you had to buy a case of them. So you had to spend $200 on ribbon fish if you were going to use them in the tournament. That's getting over my head, I promise you. All right, let's go ahead and take one of these out.
I got another question about pogies.
I'm ready.
You mentioned downrigger.
Yes, sir.
If you're using these corks and you're just kind of
You won't on the downrigger. You're right. I beg your pardon.
You won't use the downrigger.
No, I'll use the downrigger, but I won't put a cork on.
So you just let him swim off the downrigger. You're just still sitting there.
Right,
Gotcha.
right. I'll
Okay.
stop. You know, we'll move forward.
You're using
we'll let all the
downrigger.
baits
You're not
go.
trolling, is what you're.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We're more of a controlled drift than we are trolling.
Okay.
So I've almost got to have some idea that the fish are there, because obviously trolling, you're showing your baits more fish. But if the baits aren't full of fish, doesn't matter how many fish you're showing to. You know, you've got to have it done right. It's worked out for me with all predators. We do a lot better doing that than we do straight trolling live baits. Now the exception to that is if you get blue runners or if you get goggle eyes. They are strong enough to, while you're slow trolling them, they can still run away, trying to get away from the kingfish. Or really a 10 to 12 inch mullet is, you control him steadily. He'll get out of the way if one gets after him. Most pogies cannot. They can't get away from the boat because it's pulling them too fast. If that makes sense. Okay. How do you hook them? First thing you do is watch your fingers. They will hurt you.
No, the pogies.
Oh, the pogie? Thank you. In one nostril and out the other. And there's varying theories on what you do with the second hook. Terry, what do you do with the second hook?
I just, you know, if it's a big pogie, behind the dorsal, then just one hook.
Yep.
And if it's a small pogie, the bigger pogies are stronger. They can swim with the hook behind the dorsal, but the smaller pogies, I just
Let it dangle.
But the length is just behind the dorsal.
You're exactly on par of what I'm thinking. All right, ribbon fish rigs. You're going to want to have several different size ribbon fish rigs. And there's only a few things that change between a pogie and a ribbon fish rig. Remember, lay your wire on the flat side of the hook. If you don't, it won't crimp down on itself well enough. Believe it or not, there's a lot of places that will sell net caught ribbon fish instead of hand caught ribbon fish. Incredibly, it makes a difference. I don't know if it's more shine, if it's more lifelike, if they can tell the other one's been beat up in a net or what, but you will get a whole lot more bites on hand caught ribbons than you will on net caught ribbons. Now, the hook for the mouth of the ribbon, for me, is going to be a little bit bigger. I am using a 2/0 owner live bait hook, like so. But we've got a little trick to it that I'll show you. And a whole lot of people fish these with jig heads on the front to keep the ribbon fish running straight. I do not do that. Get over there. Okay. Just is long enough. What I do is I take a trout weight, like so, off a cork rig for a trout, right? What we're going to do with that is here, little boy. Don't you even think about biting me. He's got something in his mouth. Something he ain't. Squid. Anybody for calamari? Pretty good. Thank you. Take the sinker, pour it down the ribbon fish's throat, headed down into his gills. And this dude's got some fangs. Take the hook, come up, go through the eye of the sinker. Out through the top of the mouth of the ribbon, just like so. And start setting your hooks. Now we talk about next level. I know a whole lot of guys that before a kingfish tournament will spend their day spray painting this AFW silver so it doesn't show against the ribbon fish. Just like so. Whoa! I guess he was still alive after all. Everybody got it? Okay. You're better off than using a jig head to have that trout weight sunk in his mouth right there so it doesn't show. It's a little thing. There's 1,000 little things.
So if you're fishing a ribbon fish, you got to be trolling that thing.
Pretty much, no. I wouldn't say that.
You would you would put that out with pogies?
Right, I put that out with pogies. We caught an awful lot of kingfish back in the day. Remember before trolling, Terry? When we jumped kingfish, remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we caught an awful lot of kingfish back then on ribbon fish, drifting in the jump sled.
Wow.
That's all right. Towel, paper towel, maybe. Who brought mine? I forgot. I got one. Thank you so much.
You were an incredible assistant. Thank you.
It's in my contract.
That's really good.
All right, here comes the last thing that y'all are going to laugh at. Y'all are going to think I'm nuts. I thought I was nuts. A friend of mine wrote an article for our magazine about divers and how divers were taking CDs, shiny, CDs that you get, and they were tying them in a string and they were dropping them down in the water, and the pelagics were coming up to look at them. I thought, that's pretty cool. And then somebody showed me one of these, which is nothing but a series of mylar strips that you can drag one at a time behind your boat. I like to put them on an umbrella dredge looking rig and pull it that way behind the boat. And ironically, they are far more effective at live bait speed than they are at dead bait speed, which I thought, well, those will work great at dead bait speed, but the fish will figure them out at live bait speed. No, that thing undulates through the water more like a school of bait fish than you ever saw. And I'm convinced. I know it works on sailfish, and I know it works on kingfish too. The first time I ever saw.
Where do you get those at?
Most tackle shops. I know Stripes in Scotland. Yeah.
I've never seen that.
I don't know if a friend at Rainworks does or not.
Okay.
You have to check and see. But it's called a fish raiser.
Fish raiser.
When we're trolling dead bait speed, we put this in front of it to keep it in the water.
Wow.
When we're trolling live bait speed, the umbrella is plenty of weight to keep it in the And what I like to do with it, and a lot of boats can't do this, I've got outriggers, so I can run them out on an outrigger and get them out in real clean water where I can see anything that comes to them. But believe me, I've reeled in plenty of chopped off strips, so I know there's a lot of fish attacking it that I don't see too. All right, who can I help? Who's got questions on kingfish? Everybody know where?
Where are they?
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say, somebody please.
That's kind of important.
They are hit and miss on the beach right now. There have been some beautiful fish caught on the beach. There's been quite a few fish caught off the Jack's Beach Pier. There was a 23 and a 28, I think, yesterday. I haven't heard from today yet. But what you've got to find is clear water and bait. Okay? There's no pogies on the beach. That's going to make it tough. Now, I'll tell you one place that you're almost guaranteed of being able to catch live bait. Jacksonville used to have a sea buoy. It doesn't have. It's still got a sea buoy, but it also has a stretch of buoys that go all the way out about 8 miles off the beach. One every half mile or so, all the way. You get out beyond 3-4 miles into real clear water, and there's all the little blue runners and cigar minnows you want under those buoys. So that's a good place to look for them. Terry, you got an update on bait at all?
No bait on Cumberland Island last couple of days.
Woo!
Yeah. But if you find them, they're big. I ran all the way up to Stafford Shoals yesterday. It was like 3 months. Somebody. The only bait I know around here is off the south end.
South end.
Yeah, south end.
Okay, yeah. That north bite of Nassau Sound is probably my favorite. Yes, sir.
Rick, how far out are the bogies you were talking about at the end of the Jacksonville buoy?
Oh, no. It's not pogies that are under the buoys. It's cigar minnows and blue runners.
Okay, how far out is that?
Yeah, I'll start at the furthest out, the 8 mile one, and that's usually got the most of them. They've got a red and a green at 8 miles, and then like 7, 6, and all the way in. There's quite a few buoys, but they're catching fish around them too. There's been a buddy of mine had a double header of 20 pounders there about 3 days ago. So I mean,
Our boundary is it 12 miles? We're now 12 miles offshore.
Perfect.
So where would you select?
if it was me, I would be in the area. I don't know if you know where the Hippie Joe wreck is, but it's oh golly, what would we call that area, Terry?
I don't fish there.
Okay.
That's off Jacksonville, right?
Well, a little bit, yeah. It's about halfway out.
Well, there's Schultz.
It's just about off Nassau.
Schultz Fish Market off the
Right.
south there. That you can catch kingfish out there.
Right.
Schultz's Fish Market?
That's only 5 miles off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more like off Talbot Island. Schultz's Fish
Yeah.
Market. Yeah.
And Nassau
the
Live
Nassau
Bottom.
Live Bottom, yeah, should have fish now.
There's definitely some red snapper out there if you're interested.
There's just what I want, to catch another red snapper. The most insane mess I've ever seen. Now, remember what I said earlier, and nobody questioned me, I wish they had, about in the old days we were trying to set a hook in a fish, and now we're trying to keep from pulling a hook out of a fish, okay? Probably the best kingfisherman I ever fished with years ago was a guy named Mike Chacos, and Mike left his reels completely out of gear all the time, okay? Wow. Did all the holding them with his thumb, and then once they were done, he'd bump it up just enough to gain line and never put any pressure on the fish. You know, there's a whole lot more kingfish that get pulled off or broke off than there are that shake the hooks out. One of the top 3 or 4 days of my 42-year marriage, we were fishing the Greater Jacks, and we were on fish. There were fish at FA. We'd been there that morning. We'd caught a big one, and a big one immediately skyrocketed on another bait. And I said, "Don't put another bait out." I mean, we didn't stay there 4 minutes. We went home. We didn't sleep all night. Okay, we got up the next morning. It was storming, 360 degrees around the boat. I mean, everywhere, and we're about to die. Well, my wife, we're between the Mayport jetties. The water is the worst coffee-looking stuff you ever saw. My wife runs a pokey out while I'm trying to figure out where we can go without getting electrocuted. And something grabs it and clicks off about 4 or 5 inches of line. She reels it in. It's a little cold water shark about this long. She runs the second bait out. It clicks off about 4 times. She starts reeling it in. And I got my pliers and I lean over the side and I told her, I said, do not put another bait. And I'm just irate. I looked down and there's a 42.95 with the pokey rig sideways in her mouth, like just shaking her head, trying to take it out. Woo, that was a party. That girl lost her ever-loving mind, I promise you. Who's got questions for me? Wow.
I got more.
Please.
Y'all don't. When you're looking at your sonar,
Yes, sir.
what does Kingfish look like on a sonar?
You're going to see individual marks instead of when you see a blob, that's bait.
Right.
When you start seeing individual marks above them,
Are you looking
That's
like
predators.
up in the water column?
yes, almost always.
Yeah.
And I know that they feed on the bottom too, because we catch them with shrimp in their mouth and that kind of stuff. But you're going to see them most often, identify them most often near the surface of the water.
So do you find them on your sonar before you decide, all right, we're going to fish here?
No, I find bait before I decide where I'm going
So
to
you
fish.
fish around the bait?
Right. I fished around the bait, whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm doing. Okay, it's all they're going to be close to the bait somewhere. When we catch pogies on the beach, I'm notorious for as soon as I can get a little bit of clear water, I'll put out right there. The bait's there, it only makes sense. What am I running looking for? Now, you guys have got a whole lot of bottom within the 12-mile inlet. RL is well within the 12-mile limit, and there's some really good fish there. That's a much bigger area than a lot of people know. There's good bottom inshore of it. If you run over that great big ledge that's on it, and you head out 120 degrees, slow bumping your baits, there is bottom for a mile. And you're not gonna get over 12 miles off the beach. You'll be more than 12 miles from your inlet, but you'll be over 12 miles off your beach. And of course, Nassau live bottom is notorious, and I'm sure there'll be quite a few boats fishing there. I love the format, by the way. The 12-mile limit to me is just outstanding.
Any more questions?
Yes, sir.
Why do you want clear water?
I'm sorry?
Why do you want clear water?
The fish do, okay? Now, I've caught them in chocolate brown muddy water, but it's rare, all right? I'm gonna do better. Believe it or not, if you see that real pretty Bahama blue, that's not what I want. I want what we call Kingfish green, which is it's a clear water. There's no mud in it, but it's off color. Does that make sense? And of course, rips are perfect. I mean, you can't go wrong fishing rips, particularly. I suspect Fernandina Inlet's just like Jacksonville Inlet. The current, the tide line actually starts out about an hour after the high tide, right, Terry? Okay, about an hour. If you got a high tide at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, that rip's going to come pouring out of the river, and there's going to be some fish there. My very favorite place to fish Fernandina was always just north of the second set of cans. Once you come out. Yes, sir.
What size treble do you
Thank you. All right, I use 2 sizes, a number 6 and a number 4. Okay, number 6 is little pogies, number 4 is bigger pogies. A number 6 will not go through the nose of a little pogie. You got to move up to a number 4, 4X. Okay. Yeah, I usually do. And the reason I do that is it lets me know what condition my bait's in. Okay? As long as that bait's swimming great, the rest of them are probably fine. Now with me, I'm watching the corks, so I can tell who's swimming hard and who's not. But, most people are not going to cork fish because it's just not normal. It's not how we always do
Were
it.
you going to show, you wanted to go around tables and show your rigs? Or?
Anybody that wants to go back and sit at the table and make one of these rigs hands-on, I'll be more than happy to take the time to do it.
Awesome.
If anybody doesn't know how to tie one.
Thank you so much. What a great seminar. Thank you. You bet. think Dave's gonna come up and